At the end of the concourse, a surprisingly large jet waits beside a coffee kiosk and a handful of gates. On the screen above it, destinations scatter like confetti, most of them not here, but somewhere you can connect through. And that is the puzzle. Why this plane, this city, this time, when bigger places lose non-stops every single year? Airline route maps look like desire, but they are really the visible shadow of an optimization problem with rules inside. To solve it, airlines built hubs, invented schedules, and even pushed engineers to build certain airplanes instead of others today. Start with one traveler in a small city. They want to go almost anywhere. Alone, that demand is thin, scattered across time and price points. An airline does not sell flights exactly, it sells itineraries. One departure can become hundreds of possible trips if it connects well to other flights. So route planning begins less with lines on a map and more with spreadsheets of who will connect, and when at what fare and risk. In that math, a mid-sized hub can beat a bigger city. The hub turns many small flows into one strong one every day, together there. That is why you might connect through the same airport again and again. It is not your preference, it is geometry plus rules and timing. We call this hub and spoke. Wikipedia puts it simply: a central airport feeds traffic to other, smaller airports and back in a network pattern. But the map alone does not tell you the constraints. To see them, we have to rewind to when routes were controlled by law directly, because the modern network did not appear by accident. It was enabled by a policy change, then refined by decades of competition and capacity limits. In the United States, before 1978, airlines did not freely choose every route and fare. Federal regulation shaped what they could fly at all then. The Airline Deregulation Act of 1978 changed that world. It set the stage for airlines to redesign networks around competition and utilization much more rapidly. When you can move capacity, you start asking different questions. Not just, where do people live, but where can we connect them, cheaply and reliably? A hub concentrates crews, gates, maintenance, and passengers. After deregulation, many carriers built their schedules around one or several hubs to multiply choices each day. The trade-off was obvious to travelers. More places became reachable with one connection, but some non-stops disappeared when they could not pay their own way. Once an airline commits to a hub, timing becomes everything. A route can win by fitting the schedule, not by being biggest on paper alone. To make that feel real, imagine an airport like a heart. The entire network works only if the pulses are steady hour after hour too. Those pulses have a name in network planning. They are called banks, and they explain why hubs look busy, then suddenly quiet again and again. A bank is a wave of arriving flights, timed to meet a wave of departures. The goal is to create many possible connections in minutes. If 10 flights arrive and 10 flights leave, a hub can offer almost 100 pairings. That multiplication is the magic for small markets too. Wikipedia calls this banking and contrasts it with rolling hubs, where flights are spread out. Banks maximize connections, rolling hubs ease congestion at the airport. In a banked hub, the concourse feels like choreography. Everyone arrives, everyone moves, everyone departs. One delay can ripple through thousands of itineraries at once, and that ripple is the fragile side of efficiency. Concentrate too much in 1 hour, and weather or staffing turns into a system-wide problem fast. Now the plane choice starts to matter. If your hub is short runways and quick turns, you want narrow bodies that can cycle all day profitably. If your bank needs more seats at a specific minute, you might upgauge, swapping to a larger aircraft instead of adding another slot there today. So the mystery deepens. Sometimes a bigger plane is not about a bigger city. It is about a scarce moment on the clock at all. At the busiest airports, the scarce moment has a legal shape. Takeoff and landing rights are rationed, and airlines must comply with the rules strictly. The FAA describes slot administration and compliance oversight. In practice, a slot can be more valuable than the passengers on one particular flight itself sometimes. Slot rules can include a use it or lose it idea. If you do not operate, you risk giving up that time to someone else. During COVID, that logic produced a strange sight. Near-empty planes flown mainly to keep takeoff and landing rights. Wired called them ghost flights in headlines. If a slot is a key, then the schedule is a lock. Airlines protect peak hour access because those minutes feed the best connections at hubs. This is one reason a surprising aircraft shows up on a surprising route. A larger jet can carry more people using the same slot efficiently. But slots also distort choices. A flight at noon might thrive, while the same flight at 6 a.m. struggles, even if the cities make sense. So where an airline goes is sometimes really when it can go. That is network planning in its most invisible form to most travelers daily. Globally, airports are classified by how tightly they are coordinated. Some are level 3, fully coordinated, where slots are formally allocated to manage demand safely. Others are level 2, schedule facilitated. Airlines still propose times, but a coordinator tries to smooth conflicts before they become delays on the runway system below. That difference affects competition. A newcomer can exist on paper, yet fail if the only available time is early, late, or awkward for most passengers. And it shapes aircraft choice again. With a peak slot, you might upgauge to a larger aircraft, and off-peak you downgauge to match weaker demand. When we say a route exists, we mean a route exists at a usable time. Level 2 and Level 3 decide what counts as usable. You can feel this in the departure board. The same city pair can look healthy in the afternoon and miserable in the dark hours overnight. Now zoom out. IATA notes that slot coordination is spreading as demand grows faster than runway capacity. More airports are becoming time-constrained systems worldwide quickly, which means, over time, more of the world behaves like a hub, not because airlines love connections, but because the clock forces them into patterns. If hubs compress demand, regional aircraft are the connectors. The regional jet era brought jet speed to small city spokes that could not fill larger planes. Wikipedia describes regional jets as short-haul aircraft that seat fewer passengers than mainline jets. They fit thin routes and tight schedules into hub banks well. But the boom was not only technology, it was also labor economics. Airlines could outsource flying to regional partners under contract for lower costs sometimes. Then come scope clauses, agreements that limit the size of aircraft that regionals can operate. Those limits quietly shape what manufacturers design and sell profitably. So we get planes built to sit just under a cap. Not too heavy, not too many seats. Range to feed a hub, then turn. For a while, that meant more jet service for more communities. Later, when economics or contracts shifted, some of those routes thinned and vanished again. From the cabin window, it looks like convenience. From the planner's view, it is about matching aircraft to demand, while still hitting the bank timing. And now we can see the pattern. Regulations and agreements create the size brackets. Hubs create the timing. The fleet becomes the solution to both. One rule changed the long-haul world: ETOPS. It is a set of standards allowing twin-engine aircraft to fly routes far from diversion airports safely too. Before that, crossing oceans often meant 3 or 4 engines, or staying closer to alternates. ETOPS made reliable twins a default choice for many carriers. And when long-haul becomes twin-jet territory, the economics shift. Airlines can serve more city pairs with fewer seats, more often, and still make it work. This is long, thin flying. Not a giant daily wide-body, but a smaller airplane with the range to go non-stop and the cost to survive. In other words, the ocean itself became part of route planning. Not just geography, but regulation and reliability. That changed which aircraft programs looked sensible. So if you ever wondered why the skies filled with long-range twins, this is one answer. The network wanted them, and the rules allowed them. Now our original mismatch looks different. A small city might not get a wide-body, but it could get a non-stop twin jet, if the math works. When a constraint changes, the map redraws itself. And sometimes engineers notice first, because a new airplane suddenly has a reason to exist at all. Today, long-range narrowbodies push that idea further. Reuters points to aircraft like the A321XLR as tools for transatlantic markets too small for wide-bodies in practice. That does not guarantee every big city gets a big plane. A bigger city might feed a hub, lack a slot, or miss the bank. Meanwhile, a smaller place can win a non-stop if it lines up with a fleet type, a crew base, and a pattern that needs it. All of this happens while airports get busier. IATA describes slot coordination programs at hundreds of airports because runway capacity does not scale easily up. More coordination means more pressure to use each movement well. That tends to favor larger gauges at peak times and hubs that can fill them. But it also means fragility grows. If one hub bank collapses or one runway closes, the network has fewer spare places to hide the disruption. Seen this way, your itinerary is a design. The layover is not a mistake. It is the price of offering a planet's worth of destinations. And the airplane you board is a clue. Every fuselage length and seat count is an answer to the question, how do we connect everyone? Next time you watch the departure board flip from city names to gate numbers, imagine the invisible meeting behind it. Demand, regulations, slots, and aircraft all negotiating for a few minutes in the sky. The miracle is not that you can fly direct. The miracle is that, through hubs and careful timing, the system can offer so many paths at all, most days without you noticing much. And when it breaks, in weather or congestion, that fragility is the other half of the design. We built a world connected by schedules, and we live inside them every travel day now.